We're here this week for the special shir, Shalom Bamidbar, and in addition to that, this Motzei Shabbos, here is the Yontiv of Shavuos, which in Chutz La'aretz is for 2 days, which essentially gives us a 3-day Yontiv. And I don't mean to scare anyone here in Bikuch Olam when you say 3-day Yontiv. I see right away here the administration and volunteers in Bikuch Olam are starting to add up numbers in their mind. How many packages, how many portions of cholent, how many main dishes, how many seudos are being delivered to all the hospitals around. And it's quite incredible if you see the numbers and things that go on over here. So bottom line, certainly a very, very worthy organization to support. What they put out here over a Yontiv is unbelievable. And this year, as the calendar works out, as we said, we have Shabbos and Yontiv coming together right after Shabbos, like we said, 2 days of Yontiv. And really, we need to look at it as a very special opportunity. Anyone who learns Nesivos Shalom, or anyone who's been in our shir for the past 12 and a half years, that we've been learning together each and every Thursday night, Baruch Hashem, everyone knows how the Holy Shabbos plays such a central and pivotal role in the life of every Yid when you learn through the Nesivos Shalom. Everything in your life, the brachas in your life, everything revolves around the Shabbos Kodesh. So I'm sure you can imagine that a Shabbos Kodesh that leads into a Kabbalas HaTorah would be even all that more special and that more meaningful. To have the Shabbos and the Torah together is really, really something monumental. The Tur in Or Chaim Siman Reish Tzadik says, B'Shem the Medrash. The Medrash tells us that when Klal Yisrael was about to go into Eretz Yisrael, they left Mitzrayim, they traveled for 40 years somewhere in the Midbar. Remember, they received the Torah, and now they were coming to Eretz Yisrael. So the Medrash tells us that when Klal Yisrael was about to enter the Holy Land, the Torah says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he had a question. The Torah asked Hashem, when Klal Yisrael goes into Eretz Yisrael, and each person turns to their own matters, this person will turn to their vineyard to work their vineyard, another is going to turn to their field. What's going to be with the Torah? Until now, the Klal Yisrael, the Yidden, didn't really have to do anything. They were in the Midbar. They weren't working the land. They weren't occupied with their own matters. And they had time to sit in shtayt, time to sit and learn the Torah. But now they were going to work. Now they were coming to Eretz Yisrael. They were going into the workforce, and they're going to work their fields. The Torah wanted to know what's going to be with the Torah. So the Medrash tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the Torah, I have a partner. I have someone that is always going to stand with you, no matter what. Someone that's going to complement you, someone that's going to supplement you, someone that's going to be with you through the thick and thin, and is going to enhance your being. And what is this thing that Hashem said is always going to be with the Torah? Hashem told the Torah, you're going to have the Shabbos Kodesh. You're going to have Shabbos. And the Tanna Dvei Eliyahu explains, and he says that when Shabbos comes along, the Torah becomes whole. Whatever the Torah is before, but when Shabbos comes along, that was the bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the Torah, that when Shabbos comes, you're going to be complete. And what we do, however you want to understand that, and that's really a discussion for another time, we can discuss this more at length, but what we do see from this is that the Shabbos and the Torah need each other. They need each other to exist. And there can't be a shleimus in Torah without the Shabbos. Tremendous thing for us to know. in general, we need to know, the Gemara, Masechta Yuma, the Vayin Beis, Amud Beis, says that Torah, when used in the right way, the Gemara there is discussing Torah, and the Gemara says that if we're Zoiche, if Torah is used in the right way, then Torah is an elixir for life. Torah gives you life. Torah is Chaim. As we know, we're coming to the Yontiv of Shavuos. Each person, their own Kabbalah Torah. We need to understand that Torah, used in the right way, Torah is life itself. Torah gives you life. But the Gemara continues, and the Gemara says, when Torah is chas v'shalom, not used in the correct way, the Torah can be a terrible poison of death, chas v'shalom. The Torah needs to be used in the right way, and we know that unfortunately Torah could be used in the wrong way to promote the wrong things, to do things in the name of the Torah, which obviously HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very against. All these things, when you use Torah in the wrong way, the Torah becomes a Sam HaMaves. The Torah becomes a poison of death, Chas v'Shalom. And there are times, says the Nesivos Shalom, that the Torah, with all its Taryag mitzvahs, and the Taryag mitzvahs we know represent every limb and every part of a person, the Torah can be used in the wrong way and actually cause damage, believe it or not. But Shabbos, says in the Nesivos Shalom, Shabbos is different. The Zohar tells us about Shabbos the opposite thing. The Zohar tells us that when Shabbos comes to the world, every force of negativity that might exist already, and every influence and force of evil that might be existing at that time, when Shabbos comes in, all these things are forced to leave the world. As we say in Kegavna, those of us who daven Shabbos, we say it, Kad Ayel Shabsa, everything, everything possible that could possibly be negative in the world, Kulu Arkin, it all leaves. And the Kegavna goes on and tells us how Shabbos creates positivity in the world. When Shabbos comes, everything that is negative is forced to leave the world. So by Torah we see, the Gemara tells us that there's something called Loi Zacha, that it's possible to use the Torah in the wrong way. And when Torah is used in the wrong way, as we said, it's not good. But Shabbos, there's no geder, there is no part, there is no existence of Loi Zacha. By Shabbos, when Shabbos comes along, everything turns positive. So the Torah needs the Shabbos in the representation of the Torah being keneged each part and each limb of a person. We know there are some limbs of every person that are kulei gashmias, that are all gashmias, and they create a deficiency at times. Unlike the Shabbos is kulei ruchnias, and every part of the Shabbos is ruchnias. So now that leads us a little bit to the Shavuos part of the Shir. We all know, the Gemara tells us that the Torah was given dafka on Shabbos. And it's obviously, for the reasons that we just said, what the Shabbos does for the Torah and how the Shabbos works with the Torah. The Torah was given at a time where nothing can affect anything in a negative way. Because as we said, the Torah at times could be affected in a negative way if used wrong. So the Torah was dafka given on Shabbos. We know the Gemara has a question whether Kabbalas HaTorah was on the 6th day of Sivan or on the 7th day of Sivan. It happens to be in Chutz La'aretz. We have Shavuos for 2 days, but that's because of Sveika D'Yoma. In Eretz Yisrael, it's only 1 day. But the Gemara had a question whether the Torah was given on the 6th or the 7th of the month of Sivan. But then the Gemara says, but L'kulei Alma, everybody holds, whether it was on the 6th or 7th of Sivan, that the Torah was given on Shabbos. Because on Shabbos, there are no negative influences. We know, so too, the Gemara tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu added on an extra day before Kabbalas HaTorah, an extra day of the Shloshis Dmei Agbola. Moshe Rabbeinu added it on, and it was one of the things that Moshe Rabbeinu did that the Shekhinah agreed with Moshe Rabbeinu, was masking to a decision that Moshe Rabbeinu made. And because of the decision of Moshe Rabbeinu, it came out that the Torah was given on Shabbos. It's interesting to note that a Talmud Chacham is referred to many times begeder the Shabbos Kodesh. A Talmud Chacham is begeder a Shabbos Kodesh the entire week. But many people, the regular layperson, the regular person, on Shabbos Kodesh, you have Yisham Yisera, you become a different person on Shabbos. But Talmidei Chachamim, there are special people that are Shabbos Diki Yidin the whole week, the entire week. So listen to this beautiful pshat that the Nesivos Shalom says in the Gemara. So the Gemara says that we had a question whether the Torah was given on the 6th or the 7th. But the Gemara says, L'kulei Alma, it was on Shabbos. Says the Nesivos Shalom, this lashon of L'kulei Alma could mean something else also. That for the tzaddikim that are begeder Shabbos Kodesh the entire week, the Torah did not have to be given on Shabbos, because their Torah is complemented and whole the entire week. But L'kulei Alma, for the other people of the world, for the regular people of the world, the Torah had to be given on Shabbos. That's what L'kulei Alma means. So every person, our Kabbalas HaTorah was on Shabbos too. And every person needs to keep in mind that Kabbalas HaTorah is not a historical occurrence. Kabbalas HaTorah is something that comes around, as the Nesivos Shalom talks so much about, by the Yom Tovim, that Kabbalas HaTorah comes around each and every year at this time. You really have a chance to go back and make your own personal new Kabbalas HaTorah. The Torah tells us by Sfira, Sheva Shabbosos Temimos Tiyena. Says the Nesivos Shalom, a beautiful pshat, that sometimes, as we know, tonight we have one more night of Sfira to count tomorrow night, and before we turned around, we already went through almost the entire Sfira. And look what happens. Did we really grow every day? Did we use every day of Sfira to climb that ladder, to become a better person, to acquire more Torah, to be ready to Kabbalas Torah? Not necessarily. So the pasuk tells us, says in Nesivos Shalom, Sheva Shabbosos Temimos Tiyena. At least let the Shabbosos be Tomim. During the week you're running around, it's hard to control yourself, you're busy with your work, you're busy with your life, but Sheva Shabbosos Temimos Tiyena, let at least the Shabbosos be whole. This year, the way we have it, even if the past Shabbosos went by, but now we're coming to the last Shabbos, which works out for us this year, Erev Shavuos. Let's at least use this Shabbos, the day before Kabbalas HaTorah, first of all, to understand what Shabbos means to the Torah, and second of all, understand what Shabbos means to Shabbos. What Shabbos does for every Yid, what Shabbos could do for you, Shabbos, which is Me'ein Olam Haba. It's so different, so elevated, so much more than every other day of the week. We have a special schus that Shabbos directly precedes Shavuos. Let's use it. Everyone should be zeicha to have their own personal, beautiful Kabbalas HaTorah, and we should use this Shabbos as a stepping stone right to the Yontif of Shavuos, and we should all be zeicha to have a good Shabbos and a beautiful Yom Tov.